Welcome to week number 6, episode 7 of Ronde and Tiki, presented by SuperBook Sports. Ronde, this was the week of the blowouts. And unfortunately, my Giants were subject to it. Getting destroyed by the Miami Dolphins. I mean, is Devon Achane having another 60-yard run, or Tyreek Hill getting guarded man-to-man, going to the house? It's amazing. In the NFL, which is usually a 3 to 7 point league as far as the spread is concerned, there are a ton of blowouts this year.
The entire first month of the season has been defined by blowouts. I mean, can you imagine betting right now in the team that you bet for or against, for that matter, from a point perspective, is 20 points away? There's no 20-point lines, and there's 20-point games all over the place. This week, Chicago, Washington, 20 points. Carolina, Detroit, 18 points, 15 points in your Giants game. And then, of course, New Orleans shuts out New England by 34. And then Sunday night, which was supposed to be the game of the week, it's a 32-point blowout by the 49ers, man. Like, I don't know if I've seen a season where the blowout is this significant. And for me, it's hard to figure out why. The one that's jumping out at me, because it's odd. It's the Dallas Cowboys that had top 3 defense in the NFL going against, Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. And 42 points later, you're again questioning the Dallas Cowboys. I'm questioning the Dallas Cowboys right now.
It's every other week, dude. It's one week they're the greatest team defensively that we've seen in a long time because of Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. And now they lost Diggs in the secondary, and because of that, their secondary has become average. But it's really, we saw this with Arizona. Like, their 2 losses this year. You look at Arizona, a team that can stretch you and run you around because of their offensive skill with Connor and obviously Josh Dobbs at quarterback. The same thing happens with the San Francisco 49ers. Like, when you have so much talent in your skill room, a smart quarterback, Debo and Christian McCaffrey, and you can do all of these different things to the edges or even just run through the gut, it stresses this Dallas defense to the point where they're not as dominant, right? They looked overmatched, and that's something I never would have thought. And on the other side, you can call Dak Prescott what you want. Maybe some people think he's great. Some people think he's average. Some people think he's terrible. In big games, he hasn't shown up. When they've needed him to be that guy, he has not shown up. And that's ultimately what's holding Dallas back, I think, in a lot of people's minds.
Right. How about adversity that reveals things? Dallas Cowboys.
Builds character and reveals character.
Dallas Cowboys, they're 3 wins this year. New York Giants, New York Jets, New England Patriots. Their 2 losses gave up 400 yards to the Cardinals in week 3, and however many yards Brock Purdy and that offense gave up, got after them on Sunday. So are they really who they say they are, or are they kind of front runners? I'm leaning towards thinking they're maybe front runners. So when Dak Prescott doesn't get off to a good start, and Mike McCarthy's, pedestrian game plan starts to, produce 3. And I actually had some notes. I was watching that game, taking some notes. Let me look at this because this was actually it was 3 and out, followed by another 3 and out. Pollard fumble. It took a Turpin TD. 18 minutes left in the second quarter before they got their first down. That's recipe for getting blown out.
Right. As bad as Dallas is against good teams, because look, they'll beat up the bad teams, right? They'll Giants, Jets, right? Patriots. The Patriots, they're a bad team.
All right.
They're like a really bad team. And it's going to force us, Ronde, to ask the question that everybody's been waiting to ask forever. When is enough of Bill Belichick? It's ridiculous that a defense that I think over history has always been the best coached, the best prepared for circumstances, to get blown out 2 weeks in a row. I mean, that's 72-3. They got shut out by the New Orleans Saints, who are good. They're not world beaters. But to shut them out, and Mac Jones gets benched again, at some point you got to start having this conversation about Bill Belichick and what the succession plan is in New England. Now, I'm not aging him out. I'm not saying he needs to be done, but you got to start asking the question. You haven't seen this level of failure and effectiveness in New England in forever. So it feels weird.
20 plus years, actually. It was early 2000s, right? When Tom Brady took over and started making a run. The question is, because I look at Bill and in the interviews and post game, and he's always, however you want to describe that. At some point, you look at him and you're like, dude, why are you still doing this? This is miserable. Since Tom Brady left, they have what? Did they make the playoffs once in those 5 years?
Once that first year.
Made a playoff once in 5 years. They do not have a quarterback that's even good, able to elevate them to the position where he's going to be considered, or the New England Patriots are going to be considered a playoff team that's going to make a run for a Super Bowl. You're 72 years old, dude. Why are you still doing this? And I know he loves it. He's pretty good. And they probably have a succession plan. We just haven't heard.
Think how impossible that conversation is if you're Robert Kraft. Like, how do you go to Bill Belichick and say, "Hey, coach, I thank you for all your service. I think it might be time." Like, it's an impossible conversation. Like, he's earned the right to be able to go out on his own.
He's going out on his own, Tiki.
Of course he is, but how do you?
I think
isn't it time?
Before Robert Kraft says that conversation to him, he's going to be like, "All right, enough of this. I'm done." Look, their defense has always been elite and always been able to force people to do what they want them to do. But without an offense that puts pressure on the opposing team's defense, that makes them have to chase games and gives those schemes the ability to unleash themselves, you get blown out. Quarterback throws interception for a touchdown, start the game, right? Yeah, you have 4 3-and-outs to start the game. You don't recover from that in the NFL these days. It's the recipe for these blowouts or slow starts by your offense. It's not necessarily always your defense that's at fault. It's when your offense can't create and match scores, so to speak. Then you're in this situation.
I feel like the New England Patriots are a couple of losses away from being that team that we start talking about the coaches on the hot seat. And I hate to say it, but it's just the reality of it. Their defense isn't horrible, right? They're still top 10 as yards. You can't look at the points because the points are often offensive failures that are leading directly to an opposing team's point. But yards wise, they're fine. It's just they are not a complimentary football team. Right. Here's the crazy thing, and I don't think this is actually happening. But if I'm the New England Patriots, I'm actually racing to the bottom so I can go get a quarterback that's going to be my dude. And the second coming of the Bill Belichick dynasty could happen if they had a competent quarterback. I don't dislike Mac Jones, by the way. I think he's okay. I think he'd be a phenomenal backup for the rest of his life if he wanted to be, because he's smart and he's got the right kind of, attitude. But he can't be your starter because he's not consistent enough. But if I'm the Patriots and I can go get Caleb Williams or Drake May by being not too great this year and let Bill Belichick go out on his own as a winner, is that a bad plan? I'm serious.
I don't think that Bill Belichick's in it for a complete rebuild, though. That's what that would take.
But I don't know if it is a rebuild.
Look, Mac Jones is never gonna be a top 10 quarterback. Let's just go ahead and say that. He's got he's completing 60-something% of his passes. He's got 1,000 yards. On paper, he doesn't look awful. But in games when you need guys to make a difference, he's not it. He's not the guy that can promote your team to a win. Very similarly right now to the way Russell Wilson is in Denver. He's not terrible. Russell Wilson has a good stat line. I mean, he has 11 touchdowns on the year right now. But you don't feel like he's the player that's going to make your team win. And that's exactly what Mac Jones is. And again, you nailed it. Complimentary football. If you don't have it, you have no chance of winning in today's NFL. And, that's why the New England Patriots are.
All right. So let me get your vote. Is it Bill Belichick is out in the near future, or Bill Belichick gets a new quarterback and reinvigorates the New England Patriots? Which comes first?
I
Or
mean,
which is I mean, either terminal, so whichever one. What happens? What's
the
more likely to
the
happen?
likelihood of Belichick being out is less than him getting a new than him getting the opportunity to get a new quarterback or new whatever his starting over means, or
Yeah,
whatever the change is that he's looking for. That likelihood is higher than him.
100% agree. I
You
cannot
just
agree more.
can't let him go. I mean,
He's not whimpering out. I'm
no,
pretty
it's like
sure that's not going to
it's
happen.
like Pete Carroll in Seattle. He's gonna go when he wants to go. I mean,
Yep.
you coach into your 70s, early 70s, and you're considered an all-timer. You generally should get a
Yeah.
chance
You're not
to
going anywhere.
leave on your own accord.
As interesting as that is conversation as that is, yeah, he's doing what he wants to do. Ronnie,
Right.
there were 3 teams that won last week that nobody would have bet on, but it happened. We'll get to it next. First, though, why bet the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, SuperBook Sports, this fall. SuperBook is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now SuperBook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use promo code Ronde or Tiki. Not Ronde and Tiki, Ronde or Tiki, the Hall of Famer over there. So the best bet, use promo code Ronde or Tiki. This football season with SuperBook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, ladies and gents, or whoever else is watching Ronde and Tiki presented by SuperBook. Welcome back, segment 2. And Tiki, we lost a great one this past week. Dick Butkus, 80 years old. I just saw this guy in Canton.
Yeah.
Had a little conversation with him, and it lets you know how precious life is when one of your idols that we all loved and appreciate the way that he played the game takes his long goodbye. And I think all Bears fans were pretty downtrodden with that news. However, it is for certain that Dick Butkus was shining down on his Chicago Bears on Thursday, because they finally got a win.
Yeah, 14 straight, dude. Yeah, you're right, Ronde. Rest in peace to Dick Butkus. He was amazing, iconic, almost a caricature of what the football linebacker is supposed to be, and an awesome figure throughout his entire life, not just his football career.
Right.
Well, you're right. I watched, obviously, this game because I have the Commanders this weekend in Atlanta. And so I just wanted to see what went on, right? Why did the Chicago Bears finally kick the losing habit?
Before you get to that, this is 2 weeks in a row, though, that the Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields has looked like a competent quarterback. Earlier in the year, I think it was week 2, he played Tampa,
Mhm.
missing wide open receivers. There were so many down the field plays that he just did not connect on. You could tell he was uncomfortable with whatever they were asking him to do. It's just he couldn't get through his reads. Eyes were all over the place. I'm not a quarterback or a quarterback expert, but you could tell when a guy's missing the design of the play.
Yeah.
And for the past 2 weeks, especially last week, not so much this week, the week that they won, but last week when they found a way to lose that game. That you did that game, right?
I
One
did.
in Denver.
I did. The Denver Broncos.
Right. When they found a way to lose that game, for the first 3 quarters of that game, he looked like the Fields that everybody expected him to be and expected him to develop into. Now, 2 weeks in a row, he looks like that guy. And I think there's a couple of things that they're doing better. Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, you got to give him credit. They're mixing up the play calling the way that he should have been doing the entire year.
Yeah.
Like, I hate when coordinators see a guy, he's got talent. Obviously, this guy's got arm talent. Let's make him a quarterback. How about you just make him be who he is?
Yeah.
Make him a better version of who he already is. And they're finally doing that. And look, to me, if they play that way every week, they have a chance, because it unleashes his best self.
Yes. So I did his game 2 weeks ago, as you mentioned, against Denver, and I'm doing Washington this week. So I'm watching him because they've just played Washington. And there's a couple of things that you notice. One, in the game against Denver, I mean, the ball was out of his hands, easy half field reads. He's not looking all the way around. They do some empty stuff, but when he does empty, the ball's going one side. So it's
Right.
simple. It's either, shot or check down. And decision is happening quick. And he's the poster child, by the way, to back up to what you were talking about after that Tampa Bay game where he said, I'm just thinking too much. It's coaching. He's the
Right.
poster child of why you speak into existence what you're feeling. And it makes your coordinator and your head coach listen.
Oh,
Right?
they have to answer it. They have to
Well,
answer
they have to listen to what he's saying. He said coaching, and he wasn't basically saying our coaches suck. He's basically saying our coaches are giving me too much to think about, so that when I get into a play, I can't just play. And you saw that immediately against the Broncos. The first half, Ronde, he was 16 for 16, and his only incompletion was his 17th pass, which was a Hail Mary at the end of the game. They
Right.
got away. They lost that game because they couldn't convert on third down in the second half, and they had one bad play. And you know this because you study defenses. When you do action away and turn your back to the backside of a play, that defensive end or that edge rusher is not going to go after the play fake. They're going to go after the quarterback. There was a fumble, and that ultimately got Denver back into the game. What they're doing, though, Ronde, in that run game, you're right. It's not just zone read. It's QB counter. It's QB sweep. All of these things that allow for him to be an athlete. But also, when he gets simple looks, he takes shots. That's when you have man coverage and he sees it, he's going to take a shot. When you get to cover two, he's throwing it in the hole, and it helps you have DJ Moore. I'm excited for where they're going to go offensively because Justin Fields looks like the quarterback that everybody thought he was going to be coming out of college. Finally,
I know this. The way the NFL has changed, especially at that position, it's not going to look like what we all have expected it traditionally to look like.
Yeah.
There's not going to be many Tom Brady's that come along anymore. There's going to be your traditional pocket pass guys, the guys that make it look like the old guys did.
Yeah, like Brock Purdy.
Yeah, but more and more of these guys are going to be like this. The college game is here to stay. So the Chicago Bears are at home against the Minnesota Vikings plus 2.5. So they're home dogs. How many home dogs do we see every week now? It's like every single week there's home dogs. Minnesota without Justin Jefferson. I mean,
yeah, they just put him on IR.
Right.
I can't tell you.
Minnesota, two 1-win teams, by the way.
Yeah,
2 1-win teams. You can take that one.
Minnesota just can't get out of their own way, man. They're a team that won all these one-score games last year. Like, you think about it, a one-score victory is 2 plays away from a one-score loss. Yes. And that's exactly what's happening to the Minnesota Vikings this year. Last year, they were 11-0. 6 home dogs this weekend, Ronnie, by the way, that Rig just dropped in there, or Louis just dropped in there. And he's because the NFL is unpredictable. That's what it comes down to.
Well, you know what's funny about that is that we're in week 6 right now.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL is still unpredictable. Right. Usually by a month in, you have a feel for what teams are. You can start, generalizing matchups and what this should look like. Right now, I have no idea. No idea.
Yeah. The other team that won this weekend that nobody thought or saw coming was the Jets. And I had this game, Ronde, and this was the Zach Wilson game, but it was more importantly the Nathaniel Hackett revenge game. That's how we open our broadcast. And this was an interesting one because the Jets defense is elite. They've been so good, especially in the red zone. I think they're number 1 in the NFL in red zone touchdown percentage at 25%. But ultimately, this came down to Russ not being able to do anything in the second half, as they've been the case all season long, and the Jets having maybe one of the best running backs in football this year in Breece Hall, who split one right after the half, 72 yards to the house, outran everybody, and had 177 yards on the day. Like the formula for the Jets is easy. Zach is still growing. I'm not saying he's terrible or good. I'm not saying anything about him.
Right.
He's got to take steps. But the way you take steps is have a great defense, a phenomenal running back and running game, and allow him to just be along for the ride and find some confidence and success along the way.
Right. Give him easy throws. Let the running game be the catalyst. They finally took the training wheels off Brees Hall. And obviously, they were being cautious with him. He's coming off that knee injury, and they have Dalvin Cook on the roster as well. But 22 carries, 177 yards and a touch. I mean, you don't want to say he's the best running back in the NFL because we know who that is. That's Christian McCaffrey. but when you look at
McCaffrey is also on like the best team.
Right. That helps usually. That generally helps. Yeah. But after last year, what we saw Brees Hall do last year before his injury, what we saw him do in spurts before this last week game, he's in the conversation. There's no question about that. Brees Hall will be, assuming healthy, will be one of those all-pro type of running backs year in, year out with this team. And if they have him with a somewhat competent quarterback play, they're going to win football games. Defense in the NFL, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. It's on one of my segments. Defense wins games still in the NFL. I know it's an offensive league, but when you're that dominant, you are gonna win football games. And if you're talking Denver, Denver, what was it, 2 point? I think this was 2 points. 2 point spread coming into this game. The Jets covered by 12.5. That's because of defense, right? It's because of their defense. So this was a good one. I actually enjoyed watching this game, and not because I'm rooting against Sean Payton. I'm actually rooting for Sean Payton. But I gotta admit, Tiki, the recency bias on Nathaniel Hackett and everybody thinking he's the worst coach in history. It was a feel-good story.
I love Nate. Nate is awesome. You introduced me to him. I met him when he came here for the Jets. We hung out, drank an entire bottle of whiskey, and we got tight. And I love that dude. And the bullshit.
You got tight or you got tight?
Both. the bullshit that went his way because of last year is it's so unfair, because Denver was in line for a mini rebuild. I'm not saying a full rebuild, but they needed a mini rebuild. And by putting Russell Wilson on that team, it made them a win now squad. Sure. And when they fell far short of it, because Russ is just not capable right now, Nate got fired. He became the scapegoat. And Sean Payton is now realizing that Nate probably didn't do the worst coaching job in the history of the NFL. It's just one of the worst teams in the NFL right now.
Well, they're in line, Tiki, and I know you've mentioned this. You and I have talked about this. They're in line for a full rebuild. And players on their team are talking about, I feel a rebuild coming. And you're going to start when they start moving guys. They already moved the edge rusher.
Yep,
when they start moving guys, receivers.
Cortland Sutton had 1 target or 2 targets in the game.
Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. When those guys start getting, talked about being traded before the deadline, you know that Sean Payton's throwing in the towel and saying, "Hey, I'm going to have to wait and see what this team could do next year." And by the way, they go to Kansas City, the Denver Broncos, on Thursday night. Wow. 10.5.
Yeah. By the way, they have Kansas City 2 of their next 3 games. So this thing could get ugly quickly. Ronnie, the last team that won that nobody saw coming were the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I have a caveat for this because this is unfair. The Jaguars played in London 2 weeks ago, and they stayed in London this last week to play the Bills. So they had 0 travel. The Buffalo Bills, however, traveled on Thursday like teams are supposed to. And you know this because you've done this game. Matt Ryan told me this because they had one as well. When you go on Thursday, your body is not even close to being right by Sunday. And so you see teams that are going now, like the Baltimore Ravens went yesterday, or the Baltimore Ravens went on Monday to London because the last time they were there in 2017, they got blown out. And so they know that you got to get acclimated. So this was a surprise loss by the Buffalo Bills, but given that it was in London and Bills went late and Jacksonville had been there for basically a week and a half, I mean, I talk about home field advantage. Even I don't even know if they were the home team.
Right. I got 2 points here because I did this game, obviously, played in this camp, played in it twice. And once we played New England, the first time we went on Thursday. We got there, same thing, body terrible, just don't feel like you feel like you're sleepwalking through a football game, essentially. Got blown out by Tom Brady. And they did the same thing, actually. They came in, Thursday, but they're just a better
Yeah,
team.
they were just a better team.
Later, 2010, we went, or maybe it was 2011. We went the whole week. We left on Monday after we beat the New Orleans Saints. The Bucs were 4-2 at that point, right? And we got to London, and actually we were out in Surrey, but we got out there and we hung out, practiced normal, lived life like you normally would, like if you were at home, and we lost to the Chicago Bears. However, the detriment of going for the whole week is that you get used to being there for a whole week.
Yeah.
And getting back on East Coast time afterwards was not so easy. We didn't win a game the rest of the year.
Wow.
After being there a week. I don't know if there's correlation, but something happened in London to a team that was 4-2, just beat the Atlanta Falcons and New Orleans Saints, and didn't win a game the rest of the year.
Why. Well, isn't that why they give the teams the option
to take
a week off after?
So my next point, Jacksonville is not taking a week off. They've been in London for 2 weeks. They come home this week and are playing the Colts at home. Then they go to the Saints, to the Steelers, and then they have a bye week. So their bye week is 3 weeks after they spent 2 weeks in London. I don't know if that's a choice or if that's the NFL, but I think the Jaguars maybe have this figured out a little bit because they played over there so many times. I think this is the second year in a row they've played in London and chosen not to have a bye week afterwards. So I don't know. I don't know what the I don't know what the math is or the science is behind it. But look, they took on a team in Buffalo last week in London at Tottenham Stadium, and it could have been a blowout. If the Jags hadn't turned the ball over 3 times or 2 times in the red zone going in to score, Buffalo would have this would have been in our first segment as one of the blowouts of the week.
Yeah, no, the problem with the Bills, and you've seen this for the last year plus, so this goes back into last season, their commitment to the run game is sparse at best.
At best,
right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they get into it. James Cook had a game, whatever it was, 3 weeks ago, where he looked really good. It was his first 100-yard performance, and it's like, all right, they got some balance now. They finally got some balance. Yet when they get into that moment where you have to start controlling a game, they default to, all right, Josh, go do it, win it for us, figure it out, be Mr. Hero. And like, does Josh want that? Of course he does, because that's that dude. He's that guy.
Right.
But does that work all the time? The answer is no. And so that's why a team who was they were a big favorite over there last week. I don't remember what the line was. That's why they go and they lose to Jacksonville, partly because of the travel, but it's also because this Bills team, you can't trust them sometimes. And as crazy as that sounds for a team that's been as good as they've been for the last 3 or 4 years,
right?
They're not a trustworthy team. They were 5.5 point favorites last week.
Right. And in their defense, they are falling like flies on defense. They lost more guys
now.
They lost the corner last week, Tre'Davious White. Their issue,
broken leg.
Right. Their issue is going to be finding capable players to back up their stars on defense. Obviously, we know they can score points. Stephon Diggs is going to have his day. Josh Allen's always going to have his day, whether it's good or bad. He's going to have his day. But if they can't find ways to stop people on defense, they got no chance. And by the way, I know we're talking this like Jacksonville didn't deserve to win. Jacksonville deserved to win.
Of course.
Calvin Ridley, buddy.
Yeah.
We need to start saying we missed Calvin Ridley that year he set out with his mental health and then gambling deal. He is legitimately maybe the best route runner in football.
Yeah.
When you watch his tape and watch him run routes and how quickly and easily he gets out of his breaks and creates separation, I mean, Trevor
He's
Lawrence has a wealth of skilled players around him.
Yeah, he is a less jacked Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Seriously, he runs with pace. Like he runs his route with pace, which stresses you as a DB.
Right.
You just don't know what you're like. Wait, what am I doing? Hold on, what happened? This guy's on by me already.
Right. And then add that with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. They're a good football team. It was a big win for them.
Oh yeah.
All
right. Trevor Lawrence, by the way, who's a pretty damn good quarterback.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. One more. Last one.
Yeah, we got one more segment. Ask you, ask me. It's new. At least we just renamed it. But we're changing the game. Not in our segment, but with our bets. We help your bets stay hot this fall. It's SuperBook Sports, the most trusted name in sports gambling, with a direct line to Las Vegas. And now when you use promo code Ronde or Tiki, you score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, SuperBook will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code Ronde or Tiki. Download the SuperBook Sports app in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Nevada, Ohio, Tennessee, New Jersey, and Maryland. Enter the promo code Ronde or Tiki, and you'll get $250 courtesy of SuperBook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. You got a gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, welcome back. Last segment here on Ronde and Tiki, presented by SuperBook Sports. We're debuting a new segment. Ask you, ask me. I'll go first. Ronde, beauty and defensive wins. There are a couple of them. Steelers, Las Vegas. Talk about defense winning games.
Oh, I love it. And you know I do, because everybody wants to see all these points on the board. Dude, I watched this Baltimore at Pittsburgh game, and it was ugly in terms of nothing went right for either team. And it ultimately it comes down to who on defense, in defensive games, who on defense is going to make the play. And for this game, it was clearly going to be the Pittsburgh defense. They're better than Baltimore's defense at this point. They don't have an offense and that's as robust as I think Mike Tomlin would want them to be. The running game, Najee Harris can't get going. Pickett is just not quite there yet. I'm not sure the continuity between him and his offensive coordinator. But at the end of games, when you have a guy like TJ Watt and Highsmith who are barreling down on a pin your ear back must-win situation, they're going to win. It's exactly what happened in that Steelers game. TJ Watt, by the way, has 8 sacks in 5 games. Like, are you serious right now? He had 2 in this game, 2 pass defense. He's the ultimate defender. And their defense complements each other well with pass rush and their coverage on the back end. They neutralized Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. The other game is the one last night, which was also not a very pretty game, Monday Night Football. Green Bay at Las Vegas, and Las Vegas intercepted Jordan Love, who's obviously got a lot of questions about him this week right now, and threw 3 interceptions, including the game-sealing losing interception. But Max Crosby, dude, watching that game and watch him wreck house brought like joy to my heart when you see defenders just dominating games, like so much so that you can't stop talking about how they're dominating games instead of, oh, look at Tyreek Hill run past the dude. Oh, look at, Patrick Mahomes do this and that. When you see defenders changing games, changes betting too.
No, it really does. By the way, the Jets were the same way. They got after it. Jeff Olbert got after it.
Right.
Teaming up 2 untouched dogs by Quincy Williams. It killed the game. One was a big sack, and the other one was a sack fumble that one of UVA's best, Bryce Hall, picked up and took to the house. Wah, baby.
All right.
Jordan Love, he looks good at times, and then he misses things when they're most important. On that last interception against the Raiders, he had a deep over coming behind the stupid shot that he had to take. The deep over is a touchdown.
Well, if he throws the shot early, it's a touchdown. But
true.
Of starting quarterbacks in the NFL, he is last in completion percentage. He makes some pretty tough decisions. All right, question for Tiki. Tell me what you make of the Colts running back situation. JT gets paid, second highest running back contract in the league right now behind Christian McCaffrey. And then Zach Moss goes and has a day. What do you make of their situation?
Yeah, Zach. So it's interesting because prior to that game this past weekend, the Indianapolis Colts had one of the worst success rates in football. Now, we use all these advanced statistics to measure success and failure in the NFL. Success rate in a running game, which most people don't understand, is a 40, 60, 100 rule. So on first down, if you get 40% of the yards to gain on a run play, it's successful. On second down, if you get 60% of the yards to gain, it's successful. And on third down, if you get 100%. So on third down, if you run the ball, you better get a first down. So third and 1 or third and an inch, you get like an inch and a half, and it doesn't add for stats, but you get the first down, you get 100% of the yards needed to gain. It's called a successful game. So before last week, they were 27th in the league in success rate at like 22%, despite Zach Moss having a pretty decent season. So they know they needed an upgrade. So they go pay Jonathan Taylor $42 million over 3 years, which might be the formula for running backs, Ronde. We talked about this in our first episode. If you want to pay running backs, make it a 3-year deal, right? It's a 3-year deal, $42 million. It lines up with Anthony Richardson's rookie deal so that they have their situation in line. But Zach Moss goes in as 165 yards, and it almost feels like, all right, so why'd you pay that guy when you have this guy?
Right.
And so I don't think it means anything for the running back position because it still comes down to, is your guy a great one? Is your guy Christian McCaffrey? Is your guy Saquon Barkley? Caveat, when he's healthy. Is your guy like Breece Hall's becoming? Is your guy dominant? And if he is, you want him. You're going to keep him. If he's not and he's expendable, then these guys aren't going to get paid. But the running back situation got a little bit more clear with the $14 million a year deal. So that's probably about the high end of the market. I still think it's going to settle for the average guys around 9 to 10. James Conner, by the way, who's been phenomenal for Arizona, making $7 million a year.
Right. So, you nailed it. And the advanced metric discussion you just got, nobody understands that. I'm glad you said that because people try to explain it and they just like they speak in vagaries. That was not vague. That was
first and 10, get 4 yards. That's successful.
Very succinctly said.
Yeah, if it's second and 10, get 6 yards. That's successful. If you get 5, it's not successful. Right. That's just the reality of the circumstances based on down and distance. So they've helped themselves, the Colts, by signing Jonathan Taylor, but you can't help but ask yourself, did you really need to sign him for that much money?
Right. Meanwhile, the Colts,
only because he is that guy.
Meanwhile, the Colts are 4.5 dogs at Jacksonville this week, in case anybody was noticing.
Yes. No, they're on the road and they're a dog. But this week, next question for Ronde. It seems like there's a lot of home dogs. 6 of the 14 games, because they're bye weeks now, 6 of the 14 games are home dogs. What gives?
All right. Baltimore over Tennessee is the first one. Minnesota over Chicago, 2.5. New Orleans Saints 1 over Houston on the road. What's the other one? Dallas Cowboys at Los Angeles Chargers is the 5th one. And then the one obviously I'm going to talk about is the Detroit Lions at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, -3 at home, the Bucs. And the Bucs are coming off a bye week. So what gives? It's that uncertainty that we were talking about earlier. I don't think anybody really understands or knows what these teams are about yet. The other home dog was San Francisco, Cleveland, but that goes without saying. San Francisco should whoop up on them. But for me, throwback game, it's going to be pretty sweet with the Bucs wearing their
creamsicle
and ambiguous orange orange uniforms this week. To me, it's going to be one of the best games. It got flexed to the 4:25 time slot, I believe, in the afternoon on Fox. And look, Detroit, I watched some tape on them this week. They are a good football team. They play hard on defense. They have one of the elites in Aiden Hutchinson as their rusher. They've simplified they've simplified their defense. Yeah. They're playing a lot of zone coverage with some really impactful players on that side of the ball. But the reality is, on offense, they are borderline elite right now. The way that Montgomery is running the football, the way that Jared Goff is distributing it to everybody. He's got a handful of receivers that he can get the ball to, including Jameson Williams, who just came back this week. There's a reason Detroit is in part of everybody's love fest right now. Ross St. Brown didn't play last week. Didn't matter. Josh Reynolds steps up. Sam Laporta, this rookie tight end, is a revelation. All of a sudden, he's already got 25 receptions on the year as a rookie. I think last year's leading rookie receiver was actually the Bucs guy, Cade Otton. He had 40 receptions all year. And this guy, Sam Laporta, is already at 25. So give Ben Johnson a lot of credit. And so home dogs are I think prevalent because there's not a lot of trust in these home teams because nobody really understands what they are. Nobody thought the Bucs were going to be where they are. Nobody thought they were going to be 3-1. Yet they're here and they're playing the 4-1 Detroit Lions. And good luck betting this one. And not that Tampa's a bastion for home field advantage, because if you watch the Philly game, there's a ton of Philly fans here.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you there's going to be a ton of Detroit fans here in Tampa on Sunday as well. So it's just always interesting to me. Home dogs. I never used to see home dogs, and now they're everywhere. Last ask me question, Tiki. 2 huge lines this week. Who is your favorite to cover? Two big ones. One of them obviously involves your New York Giants. So
yes. The other one is the Carolina Panthers and the Miami Dolphins. The Carolina Panthers are getting 13.5. They need to get like 25 because there's no chance of the Carolina Panthers covering that against Miami. I watched Miami last week, obviously, because they played the Giants, and they stress you everywhere. Now, I know Devon Achane is banged up this week with a knee injury, and he might not go. But it doesn't matter. Raheem Mostert is just as dynamic as he is.
By the way, do you watch The Boys on
Yes.
Prime?
Yes.
We should just start calling him A-Train.
Exactly what he looks like. He might go on to IR. Jeff Wilson, who also was previously in San Francisco with Mike McDaniel, should be coming back this week. So they have so much talent. They're just going to step up and fill the running back void. And Devon Achane was dynamic. I mean, I think he's averaging like 11 yards a carry, maybe more than that at this point. But even without him, they're dynamic with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And Tua is playing as good a football as there is. If it wasn't for Brock Purdy, he'd be the top quarterback in the NFL right now.
He is leading the league in passing yardage through 5.
Tua is, but QB rating is Brock Purdy, who is just efficient and does exactly what Kyle Shanahan wants him to do. 12.1 yards per carry for Achane. But the other one, you're right, is my New York Giants taking on the Buffalo Bills. They're laying 14, the Bills are, against the New York Giants, who are, I'm going to say, broken. I'm going to be homerish and say I think the Giants have a better chance of covering than the Carolina Panthers because they're 2 bad options. But the Giants are broken. Their offensive line is a wreck. They gave up 6 sacks on Daniel Jones. I think maybe 7 because Tyrod Taylor came in and he got sacked as well and knocked out of the game with some injury. The offensive line is bad from left tackle all the way to right tackle because Andrew Thomas is out and Evan Neal has not developed. You can't trust what the Giants are doing. They have some good talent, but Saquon is always hurt, and he missed 3 games in a row, and it hurt the Giants. You look at them defensively, as much as I love Wink and love his idea of just go get people, he exposes his guys so often, and they're young at the cornerback position with Trey Hawkins and Tay Banks. They don't know how to play at this level yet, and he's leaving them in man coverage often. I'm going to say the Giants because I think this week is going to precipitate a necessary simplification on both sides of the ball. Hell, play with 2 tight ends, man, if you have to. Protect your edges. Line up in 12 personnel and protect your quarterback. And then defensively, play 2, play 4, play 1. Right? Stop all this combo stuff that these guys are confused about. And you watch that tape against Miami. Okereke is like, dude, you're supposed to be over here. So you have DBs like running into coverage and getting toasted. So I'm going to say the Giants have the better chance to cover the 14 than the Carolina Panthers, the 13.5 to Miami.
I totally agree. Carolina is a neutered football team right now, and Miami is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
best offense and one of the most explosive offenses in the league, as well as having a Vic Fangio-led defense. No chance, Carolina.
No
chance.
I just can't see it. All right, that would do it for episode 7. Episode 7 on week 6 of Ronde and Tiki, presented by SuperBook Sports. Don't forget, if you're headed out to Vegas, go check out the actual SuperBook Sports at the Westgate. New England Patriots fans, if you're going out there, go check it out. New York Giant fans in a couple of weeks, and then New York Jet fans in a couple of weeks. Check out the Westgate and SuperBook Sports when you head out to Las Vegas, because that's the destination. If you're going to travel to one game, go when they play the Las Vegas Raiders. We'll be back next week.
The Ronde and Tiki Podcast is produced by SuperBook Sports. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Maryland, Nevada, New Jersey, Ohio, and Tennessee. In Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF or visit 800betsoff.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342.